Iran's unprecedented retaliatory attack on Israel last weekend is fueling fears of a wider war in the Middle East. For more on this, we have our Choi Min-jung in the studio. Welcome back, Min-jung.
Thank you for having me.
So, Min-jung, the crisis in the Middle East has worsened this week with Iran's attack on Israel. What's the story?
Right, last Saturday, Iran launched its largest ever drone strike using hundreds of drones and missiles to target Israel. It was the first time Iran directly attacked Israeli territory. The strike was a response to the deadly bombing of Iran's embassy compound in Syria on April 1st, which killed 7 members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Israeli military confirmed that there were more than 300 drones and missiles launched, but claimed its air defense systems and its allies were able to intercept most of the threats.
We intercepted 99% of the threats launched towards Israel's territory. This is a very significant strategic achievement.
And the attack has sparked concerns from the international community, with world leaders calling for restraint.
Right, global leaders are responding with urgency in a bid to ease escalating tensions. South Korea strongly condemned Iran's moves, with President Yoon Suk-yeol convening an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. U.S. President Joe Biden said that Washington would not participate in any counteroffensive launched against Iran, but instead would only continue to assist defending Israel. Leaders of the group of 7 nations convened a meeting and unanimously condemned Iran's attack. And an emergency meeting at the UN headquarters also took place upon the urgent request of Israel. There, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for a de-escalation of violence and maximum restraint.
The Middle East is on the brink. It's time to step back from the brink. It's vital to avoid any action that could lead to major military confrontations on multiple fronts in the Middle East.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury Department has warned of new economic sanctions against Iran, while EU leaders also decided to step up sanctions.
We have decided to put in place sanctions against Iran. This is a clear signal that we want to send.
Right, Min-jung, we can definitely see that fears are mounting over a possible escalation of war in the Middle East. And I hear there are also growing concerns of a possible cooperation between North Korea and Iran.
Right, Pyongyang and Tehran are known to have had close ties over the past few decades, with both facing international sanctions for their weapons programs. Following the attack, the U.S. said it is incredibly concerned about Pyongyang and Tehran's long-suspected military cooperation, and a Pentagon press secretary also expressed concerns over the possibility that North Korean weapons were used in Saturday's attack on Israel. South Korea's National Intelligence Service is closely monitoring whether or not this is the case. The U.S. ambassador to the UN also addressed the speculation during her visit to South Korea this week.
We are concerned about the Iranians providing weapons to the Russians, and the Russians also supporting efforts to help the DPRK expand their own research into developing weapons, and certainly that would be the case with Iran as well. We have to look for every opportunity to call them out, but also to hold them accountable.
Now, experts are saying that cooperation between North Korea, Iran, China, and Russia are bound to pose a bigger threat to the international community. How so?
Right, North Korea, Iran, Russia, and China are all currently in conflict with the West. The Washington Post this week reported that what we have now is better understood as a marriage of convenience between a number of disparate nations. In other words, these countries are seeking ways to benefit each other amid pressure from the West. The report said sanctions and export controls from the West have pushed Russia to turn to China, allowing China to benefit from Russia's rich natural resources and its military technology in return. Moscow also looked to North Korea to strengthen military cooperation for its war in Ukraine. And as we mentioned before, there is speculation over North Korea's involvement with Iran as well. The Washington Post also implies that the desperation to work together due to isolation from the West could lead to dangerous situations.
Right, Min-jung, I guess we'll have to hope the international community can act together as one to prevent a wider conflict in the Middle East. Thank you for the wrap-up.
My pleasure.